Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, October the 9th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast, which means that we do pride ourselves on research by going from the most reputable sites with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, Newsmax, whatever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We provide just the facts, nothing but the facts. At the same time, we do try to watch our language and maintain our professionalism. Let's be honest, words fly. At the same time, guys, maybe things that might be shown tonight that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, we might as well start off differently here before we get to the elephant in the room. The Supreme Court does signal that it may uphold Biden's regulation on ghost gun kits. Now, you guys have probably sat there and if you've been following this podcast, we've been talking about ghost guns and the fact that these kits are not as regulated as regular firearms are. A lot of these ghost guns have actually shown up in murder or crime scenes. The reason why these ghost gun kits are so popular is because they do not have serial numbers. It basically makes them virtually untraceable. At the same time, there is no age limit on who can purchase these ghost gun kits, which was one of the main things the Biden administration did bring up and wanted to curtail. The Supreme Court, surprisingly, may actually go in Biden's favor at this moment. There has not been an official ruling on this, but trust me, if someone does bring up a case about ghost guns, that's the person that needs to be put on a watch list. Because again, I am a gun owner. I have been saying that for the longest time, guys. I am a firearms owner. I do believe in the fact of the Second Amendment, and you do have the right to defend yourself. But the thing about it is, guys, is just that, well, we do need more regulation. I'm not trying to sound like a broken window, but we do need more regulation. We do need stricter guidelines. We do need to study on mental health and gun violence in America. All those things would actually help us because how is it these other countries have gotten this figured out, and yet we, being the most liberalist of gun laws countries out there, still having a problem? Just saying, it's a step in the right direction. But I want to get to this little tidbit, guys, before we get to the hurricane news, because again, if you are in Florida, in the path of Milton after Helene just passed, really quickly, I hope you guys are safe. If you were able to get out, if you're not able to get out, I hope that you definitely have plenty of supplies and water and things of that nature, because again, this is a Category 4 hurricane that just made landfall not too long ago. So if you are in the Florida area, hopefully you guys are definitely safe. But speaking of things are safe, 60 Minutes, you know, the show that used to come on after football, when CBS used to do football, that your parents used to watch and sometimes put you to sleep and always had that ticking clock. Yeah, so, 60 Minutes usually has a tradition of interviewing presidential candidates. Well, except because convicted felon presidential hopeful Donald Trump decided, nah.
It's been a tradition for more than half a century that the major party candidates for president sit down with 60 Minutes in October. In 1968, it was Richard Nixon and Hubert Humphrey. This year, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump accepted our invitation. But unfortunately, last week, Trump canceled. The Trump campaign had told us that the interview would be this past Thursday at Mar-a-Lago. They also asked us whether we would meet 78-year-old Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, where he was grazed in an assassination attempt. We agreed. On September 9th, Trump's communications director, Stephen Chung, sent a text that read, quote, "I'm working with our advance team to see logistically if Butler would work in addition to the sit-down." Sit-down meaning the interview in Florida. Days later, Chung called to say, quote, "The president said yes." Then, a week ago, Trump backed out. The campaign offered shifting explanations. First, it complained that we would fact-check the interview. We fact-check every story. Later, Trump said he needed an apology for his interview in 2020. Trump claims correspondent Leslie Stahl said in that interview that Hunter Biden's controversial laptop came from Russia. She never said that. Trump has said his opponent doesn't do interviews because she can't handle them. He had previously declined another debate with Harris, so tonight may have been the largest audience for the candidates between now and Election Day. Our questions addressed the economy, immigration, reproductive rights, and the wars in the Middle East and Europe. Both campaigns understood this special would go ahead if either candidate backed out.
Okay, so again, that was, Trump saying, Trump saying, no, I'm not going to do any more interviews, debates, things of that nature, because, well, one, I got my ass kicked by an intelligent black woman, and two, I'm really showing myself to be the degenerate old person that should not be president. So here's the crazy thing about this. Because of that one debate that he had with Kamala Harris, the one debate that he had with my vice president, now he's like, oh crap, I can't beat her. The rhetoric isn't working. I try to make fun of her name. I try to question her blackness. I try to question her record. I try to use Fox News to say she slept her way to the top. Nothing is sticking to this woman. What else should I do? I got it. I won't talk to her. That'll fix it. Now, keep in mind, everybody's like, well, of course, with the Fox News variety, well, it's 60 Minutes. There'll always be that bias. Really? Let's turn back the clock to the first time he had this interview. And again, this is coming from a man that says up and down that his opponent, Madam Vice President Harris, can't do interviews. This man didn't last 2 minutes.
Do you think that your tweets and your name calling are turning people off?
No, I think I wouldn't be here if I didn't have social media.
Well,
but the media is fake. And frankly, if I didn't have social media, I'd have no way of getting out my voice.
Do you know what you told me a long time ago when I asked why you keep saying fake media?
Yeah.
You said to me, I say that because I need to discredit you so that when you say negative things about me, no one will believe you.
I don't have to discredit you.
But that's what you told me.
You've discredited yourself.
You know, I didn't want to have this kind of angry.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Well, then you brought up a lot of subjects that
Well, I said
were
I'm going to ask you
inappropriately brought
tough
up.
questions.
They were inappropriately brought up right from the beginning. No, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions.
Why?
You don't ask Joe Biden. I saw your interview with Joe, the interview with Joe Biden.
I never did a Joe Biden interview.
The interview, 60 Minutes. I see Joe Biden giving softball after softball. I've seen all of his interviews. He's never been asked a question that's hard.
Okay, but forget him for a minute.
No, but you start with me.
You're president. And
excuse me, Leslie, you started with me. Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
Are you?
That's no way to talk. It's no way to talk.
Leslie, one second.
At this point, one of our producers interrupted to advise about the time remaining in the interview.
I think we have enough of an interview here, Hope. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go meet for 2 seconds, okay? Thanks. I'll see you in a little while. Thanks.
Be careful.
Now I'm going to stop it right there because simply put, guys, that was 1 minute and 51 seconds. This man sat down for an interview with 60 Minutes, and this was 3 years ago. 1 minute and 51 seconds, and swore up and down, oh, well, you guys never give me a fair shake. You guys never do this. Joe Biden doesn't get questions like this. And this is coming from the guy who says that a black woman can't handle questioning. Surely, if you've never been around a black woman, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about black women because I do support black women, but black women can handle questioning just fine. Matter of fact, they're kind of the best investigators around. Just saying. At the same time, I just want to point this out for comparison that he turns around and says, well, my opponent, he was never asked tough questions. Really? Here's an excerpt from when Joe Biden got asked, will the titans of socialism basically take over his presidency?
And that the cost of free public college could be twice as much as he said.
The president made the case at the Republican convention that your administration would be a Trojan horse for liberals, that AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren would actually be controlling policy, that this would become the most liberal administration in U.S. history.
He'd love to run against them, wouldn't he? Mr. President, you're running against Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a deep, steep, and successful record over a long, long time.
But Joe Biden's running mate's record is less widely known. Kamala Harris has represented California in the U.S. Senate for almost 4 years. You're very different in the policies that you've supported in the past. You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all. You've supported legalizing marijuana. Joe Biden doesn't support those things. So are you going to bring the policies, those progressive policies that you supported as senator, into a Biden administration?
What I will do, and I promise you this, and this is what Joe wants me to do, this was part of our deal. I will always share with him my lived experience as it relates to any issue that we confront. And I promised Joe that I will give him that perspective and always be honest with him.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No. No, it is the perspective of a woman who grew up a Black child in America, who was also a prosecutor, who also has a mother who arrived here at the age of 19 from India, who also, likes hip hop. Like, what do you want to know?
Well, I want to give you the opportunity.
So again, and that's just an excerpt. Again, this was back in the 2020 election. I could sit there and see, I think we can honestly sit there and say on behalf of 60 Minutes, yeah, I think they're a little bit fair. At the same time, I don't expect Trump. I don't expect his Trump puppet JD Vance to do any more debates, when really at this point we would have had about 3 or 4 presidential debates. But this just goes to show you how Donald Trump really has revamped the Republican Party to the point to where if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. It's like it's a petulant child that's currently on a current bender, throwing a tantrum when he doesn't get his way. And this is the same man who said Biden was too old, even though he was 3 years younger than Biden. He's also saying that Kamala Harris, again, tried to attack her because that's his shtick. Even attacking 60 Minutes, saying, I have to discredit you first, so anything that you say will basically not be heard. This man is pulling the dictator's playbook, not realizing the time is running out. At the same time, fact-checking should always be done. We've seen it happen at the presidential debate and the vice presidential debate. Fact-checking, no audience, really holding these candidates to the fire makes a world of a difference. Because because I'll be honest with you, if Trump had a crowd in front of him, the con man comes out. The I wish I was an entertainer came out. That guy will come out, especially in the fact that we'll get to the hurricane shortly. But I wanted to get one thing first that presidential candidate hopeful, Madam Vice President Harris, did say, that she wanted to introduce something new into the world of Medicare and drug cost coverage. And she also said something that just kind of gave me a little bit of pause as she said this on The View. Right there, just because it goes into Maya Rudolph and she does an amazing impression of Madam Vice President. But I love the fact that she said there about her Medicare proposal, including in-home care to be included in Medicare, because again, the boomer generation is aging so ever gracefully. But for anybody that has individuals that are older, in-home care, hospice care, can be a challenge, can be costly, can be pricey. Also, insurance may or may not cover it. So Medicare, we are slowly inching toward Medicare for all, which it needs to happen anyway. But I love the fact that she is taking that into consideration for those whose lifestyles have changed to accommodate their family members. Because let's be honest, it's getting the cost of care, the all the above is really just getting frustratingly high for no reason. I'm all for that. Having a Republican in her cabinet, I see. Here's the thing. I get the whole idea of bipartisanship. I do, to a certain extent. And what I mean by to a certain extent, I mean by you need to have people that are going to be willing to actually work for Congress and not do things at the whim of a convicted felon, also known as Trump. Does Kamala Harris have the greatest intentions? I will give her that. But at the same time, having a Republican in your cabinet doesn't scream bipartisanship to me, because not one Republican has yet to speak out against Trump. Because anytime a Republican has spoken out against Trump, they are no longer in office. Trump has made sure of that. At the same time, you are kind of letting someone in the door that may or may not have America's interest at heart. Again, President Obama, when he was president, tried to do bipartisanship. And let's be honest, you cannot do bipartisanship when at the time Moscow Mitch sat there and said one day, not even one day, hours after you got sworn in as president, he sat there and said, the first goal that we have is to make sure that Barack Obama is a one-term president. I'm sorry, Madam Vice President Harris is going to be facing the very same foothold, more so even the fact that they may not like a black woman that's actually being president. So again, I mean, I understand it. I understand the symbolism of it. But honestly, we do need to have an all, you got to have an all Democratic party to get things done, as well as having a Congress that'll back you up at the same time. But moving on, guys, again, going back to the hurricane, of course, Helene had passed through. Hurricane Milton has already hit landfall in Florida. So hopefully you are in the Florida area, you are staying safe, and just trying to, be as safe as humanly possible, because again, it's category for hurricane. Beforehand, I did want to talk about the fact, guys, that, misinformation is a terrible thing. And we here at How the Frack We Got Here, we try to combat misinformation. Why? Because you get idiots in areas, especially on social media, because you've probably seen on TikTok where they, the whole thing about FEMA's only giving out $750. FEMA's only doing this. FEMA's only doing that. There's people that are still stuck that can't get help. A lot of misinformation, not only from Trump and from others we'll get to, but at the same time, misinformation can do a lot more damage than good.
The head of FEMA attempting to set the record straight after her agency has been repeatedly accused of an inadequate response to Hurricane Helene by former President Trump.
Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants.
Deanne Criswell responding on CNN.
One, it's just categorically false. And I can assure you that no funding has been taken from the disaster relief funds.
In the last 2 years, FEMA has distributed more than $1 billion in taxpayer money to shelter migrants in cities across the U.S. But the White House and FEMA both say that's a separate government program, not for disaster relief, adding there's no evidence funds have been diverted. The vehement defense comes as the federal government rushes to prepare Florida for a second hurricane. Governor Ron DeSantis saying Monday the government is working with his state.
We have gotten what we need from the feds.
The federal government also sending an additional 500 troops to North Carolina to help with search and rescue efforts and to bring aid to people left with little after Hurricane Helene. Some residents, especially in remote towns, say they haven't seen any federal aid.
Have they come to your neighborhood, knocked on your door?
No. One common false rumor that FEMA will only provide families $750.
So we're into almost $300 billion for Ukraine, and yet they're offering people $750
for immediate needs.
For the worst, but for the worst hurricane that anybody's seen.
That $750 is just for urgent essential items like food, water, and other emergency supplies, while FEMA assesses people's eligibility for more. FEMA forced to set up a web page to dispel the rumors. The U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security says he's never seen misinformation spread at this level, and it hurts the hurricane victims.
It sows distrust in their government, and therefore they don't seek the help that they truly need.
North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper and FEMA have been on the ground trying to reassure residents that help and funding are here. Already tens of millions of dollars in aid have been approved, and they estimate that up to 90% of the power could be back on today.
So that's part of the misinformation out there, guys, that you hear Trump saying a lot of things, especially in the sense of not just Trump, but other folks who are just trying to get ahead, trying to make a come up on social media, saying all types of misinformation. But that's the reason why we have to combat it by actually showing the truth. Now, of course, Republicans will also have a hard time, matter of fact, trying to displace that from them, because considering the fact that Mike Johnson, as Congress, as Joe Biden and the Democrats try to put forward an emergency bill to get more funds out there for the hurricane relief, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said, no, we can wait till after the election. And again, Mike Johnson, the same guy who it took a while for him to get in after the former Speaker of the House was ejected, is now saying that, you guys can wait till after the election next month. And I'm sorry, people can't wait for next month for assistance. But I just want to point this out because you're going to see this a lot, that all Republicans are going to sit there and say that the Biden administration is not doing enough when every Republican voted no on actually pushing out this emergency package. And because now Congress is adjourned for the vacation, Mike Johnson will not call them back for another vote. So exactly who is doing what here? For the simple fact of the matter that they do not want to help. Because again, in the Trump-esque version of these things, if they did help, that would be a win for Biden, only in his mind. But again, this is coming from a person that looked at hurricanes, and this is what they said.
Looking at right now in the last week, what we're preparing for with Milton, this is what we are now facing with global average temperatures a little over 1 degree Celsius higher than the pre-industrial average. 1. Imagine what it will look like when we reach 2 degrees, twice as bad, or 3, or 4. That is the world Donald Trump would push us towards faster if he returns to the White House. Not that he cares, he thinks it would be good for real estate values.
When I hear these people talking about global warming, that's the global warming you have to worry about. Not that the ocean's going to rise in 400 years, 1/8 of an inch, and you'll have more seafront property, right, if that happens. I said, is that good or bad? I said, isn't that a good thing? If I have a little property on the ocean, I have a little bit more property. I have a little bit more ocean.
Okay, every time I play this clip, we just got to stop for 1 second. Think about that give it 10 seconds of your brain power. If the oceans rise, do you have more beachfront property? Does that make sense? If the oceans rise, do you have more beachfront or you have less, right? Now, we've known for decades our planet is warming, that we would start seeing the brutal effects. But conservatives remain so deep in their denial, they're flailing around for anyone or anything else to blame. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is now like a big mover and shaker in the Republican Party, is promoting a bizarre conspiracy theory about a mysterious they, you can imagine who that is, controlling the weather, suggesting that they are sending hurricanes to Republican areas to impact the election. Like someone is sitting at some computer somewhere pressing hurricane. And it's not just her. She's now being amplified by right-wing media and the Republican nominee himself.
Has the government figured out how to build a storm into a superstorm that will destroy everything in its path, and then how to aim it right for where they want to aim it? It just happens to miss South Florida, where all the Democrats live. Something strange is going on.
These are Trump counties. And don't tell me for a second that what we're not seeing is a massive government-pushed voter suppression operation.
You know, it's largely a Republican area. So some people say they did it for that reason. I don't even think they're that bad, but maybe they are.
They're sending the storms. They are sending the storms. Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, found a way to get in on it too, blaming it on immigrants.
You have FEMA, which is there for disaster relief for American citizens after a terrible storm, being deployed repeatedly to deal with Kamala Harris's wide open border and the migrant invasion that it's caused. That lack of focus on their core mission, that distraction, and focusing instead on illegal immigrants, I guarantee that it has made the disaster response worse.
Okay, that's false. Both FEMA and the White House dispute those claims, saying the disaster relief fund is completely separate from other programs. But again, it's not really surprising. This is the way the right wing and Republicans, even high-ranking ones, are reacting. The guy at the top of the ticket, right? It was never going to be the case they would see the real impacts of climate change, the carbon we put in the atmosphere, the heat that it's trapped, that ends up in the ocean, that fuels our storms. To see all that, which is, again, not hard to understand at all, after decades of denial, and be like, you know what? My bad. That's on us.
So what's crazy about this is And again, science goes a long way. Education, so freaking vital. So freaking vital. Climate change is real. Climate deniers can say it all you want to. Our planet is warming. And don't believe me, we have longer summers, over 100 degrees, especially here in the South. We had 100-degree summers, 100-degree days, longer days than we had the previous year. Hurricane season, these are Category 4 and 5 storms. Currently, a Category 4 is hitting Florida right now. Flooding, especially here in my home state of Tennessee. East Tennessee is basically a pool. And at the same time, how in the world can we sit there and not say, literally, climate change is real? And yet you have folks like Trump going, well, the beachfront raises, maybe I have more property. Every math, science, and geology teacher are all going, if water levels rise, you won't have beachfront property. That's what they always used to say, you know, if the water levels rise, New Orleans will be gone. California would be a pool. I'm just saying they've all said this in the event that water levels do rise. When water levels rise, maps get redrawn. But what kills me out of the whole thing is this right here. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a woman that said that Jewish space lasers exist. A woman that sat there and literally has no shame about anything that she said or does, gets paid for literally being in Congress for doing nothing. And she says this: yes, they can control the weather. It is ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. Let me point this out from a person that loves sci-fi and everything in between. There have been movies about it, books about it, television shows about it. It's not real. We cannot control the weather. Here's the thing. If you think, and let's just use some logical thinking here. If somebody can control the weather, wouldn't you make it to where we can actually fix our environment? We can actually fix our polar ice caps. We can actually fix our forestation areas. We can actually curb and prevent hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. You would think if we have the ability to control the weather, could we not send rain to starved out areas that could certainly use it? Could we not, fix so many things if we can control the weather? I'm just saying, I don't think that anybody that actually uses that situation would use it to say, let's attack Republican counties. It's asinine. It really is. But here's the thing. Somebody believes it. And not just somebody. A large group of people believe it. And that's the scary part. That they will go out here, pulling an Alex Jones, screaming from high heaven that for some odd reason, yes, this happened. Only because these are Trump countries. Not forgetting that these are human beings who have families, who those families are now in the dangers of who could possibly be in the path of a very dangerous hurricane. But you believe that somebody in a dark room with a laptop said, Hurricane Florida. This is why I say felon Trump loves the ill-educated. But I love the fact that, Trump talks about the response that's going on right now, post-Helena and now about to be post-Milton. But everybody forgets a certain hurricane also hit Puerto Rico during his administration, and you can't forget this.
18 days since Hurricane Maria, and only 11.7% of the island of Puerto Rico has power. Just 29% of cell phone towers are back online. The crisis continues there. But President Trump is patting himself on the back a bit. This week, he was interviewed by two of his friends. First, Fox's Geraldo Rivera, then former Governor Mike Huckabee, father of White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. You see this formal sit-down White House setup? Looks really great, right? We're used to seeing these interviews. Every president does them. But Trump hasn't done this with a TV journalist since May. That's when he sat down with Lester Holt of NBC. It's been 5 months, no formal TV news interviews. Now, if Huckabee were a journalist, he would have pushed back on some of Trump's claims in this next clip. Instead, I want you to watch how Huckabee reacts to Trump tossing paper towel rolls into the crowd.
So we did a great job, and we weren't treated fairly by the media because we really did a good job. I mean, one example, they had these beautiful soft towels, very good towels. And I came in and there was a crowd of a lot of people and they were screaming and they were loving everything. And I was having fun. They were having fun. They said, throw them to me, Mr. President. And so I'm doing so the next day they said, oh, it was so disrespectful to the people. It was just a made up thing. And also when I walked in, the cheering was incredible.
You were a rock star. I saw the video of it.
It was crazy. The cheering was deafening.
So I stopped it right there just because for all Barry does is remember what happened with when Puerto Rico was hit by a hurricane. Trump decided to go down and Kobe shot paper towels to its constituents. Yet Puerto Rico was still suffering for months on end and really wasn't getting the funding at the time that it needed. But yet former convict is going to sit there and say, what's going on right now, he would have done a better job. I'm sorry, Trump. You won't be able to Kobe shot toilet paper and paper towels to other constituents thinking you're doing a good job. I'm just saying it's not a good look, especially from a PR standpoint. But again, it's Trump. All PR can't be all bad. PR can't be all bad. But what else? Moving right along, guys. I wanted to cover this story because again, this also was going on in Nashville. That if you don't know about the case of Tyre Nichols, the man that was literally hunted, assaulted, and eventually killed by a group of Memphis police officers. There has now been a sentencing in the cases of a few of those officers.
And just in tonight, the split verdict in the federal trial on the police beating death of Tyre Nichols during a traffic stop in 2023. Rahema Ellis is with us. Rahema, tell us what happened in court.
For sure. Lester, late this afternoon, verdicts came down for 3 former Memphis police officers accused of federal civil rights violations in the case of Tyre Nichols. The case stems from a traffic stop last year. Police approached Nichols for reckless driving, according to a statement from Memphis Police Department. Officers say Nichols tried to run away, and then a, quote, confrontation occurred. The 29-year-old died a few days later. The 3 former officers were among the 5 fired after last year's beating, which sparked a national outcry. In today's verdict, all 3 were convicted of charges of witness tampering. Demetrius Haley was found also guilty on 4 of 6 charges, including a lesser count involving bodily injury. Lester?
And honestly, the reason why, guys, I bring this up is that, okay, yes, witness tampering, but I didn't hear murder. These officers murdered Tyre Nichols. And let me also add some context to this. There's also still another case that's coming up. So those same officers will also be involved in another case, which hopefully will actually have murder charges to it. Because make no mistake, these officers murdered that man. And this goes back to what I said about law enforcement and people of color. Law enforcement officers will always have a hard time getting people of color's trust when we see cases like this, stories like this, names like we won't forget. Because again, no matter if you comply or don't comply, no matter if you do exactly what they tell you or don't do, you have trigger-happy, less than qualified individuals wearing a badge and a gun and empowered by the city or state that they're in to do what they will. And no repercussions, but you have qualified immunity, which we talked about previously on this podcast, that officers do enjoy, but I wish they were removed from them. But again, we will follow that story as it goes along, as another court case is looming on that. Moving right along, guys, we covered this story as well because, again, remember, guys, we sat there and said it might have actually just been a month ago. The woman that was at a Disney resort that actually had an allergic reaction and died, and her husband telling them about the food allergies that she had, tried to sue Disney, and Disney tried to sit there and say, no, you can't sue because you are a Disney Plus member, and part of our contract means that you can't sue us. That goes to mediation. Remember the outcry come from that, and that we never thought it would be possible for a company to try that again? Enter Uber.
Georgia and her husband John McGinty were in an Uber on the way home from dinner. The accident happened in an instant.
We went right through the light and there was a loud bang and a hard crash.
Their driver ran a red light. The couple suffered multiple broken bones. Georgia had internal injuries after the 2022 crash.
They kind of got me out on a stretcher and it was like pouring rain on top of me. And I could hear John calling to me from the other ambulance.
What you've just described, there's emotional damage too, isn't there?
Yeah.
More than a person can imagine.
The couple wants to sue Uber, but the New Jersey Superior Court recently ruled they can't because Georgia agreed to the company's terms of service, which includes something called an arbitration provision, waiving the right to a trial by jury in the case of an accident. But the McGinty say Georgia didn't agree to the terms of use for the most recent update. It was her 12-year-old daughter using her mom's Uber Eats account.
I think she was ordering like pizza delivery. Yeah.
And waiving in the process your right to a trial by jury if you got in an accident.
Right.
The court ruled in part that because Georgia agreed to previous versions of the terms of use herself, she was bound by them. In a statement to NBC News, Uber writes the plaintiff agreed to Uber's terms of service on 3 separate occasions, including when she first signed up in 2015. If they go to arbitration, it's confidential. Their dispute is settled in private by a third party. The process often benefits companies facing liabilities.
They won't get bad press, and an arbitrator is usually less likely to give out a big damages award than a jury of someone's peers.
The ruling comes just months after a man tried to sue Disney for the wrongful death of his wife after she had an allergic reaction in a restaurant in Disney World. Initially, the company said he was bound by the terms of service he agreed to on his Disney Plus streaming account. But in August, after the case got a lot of attention, the company changed course, waiving arbitration and saying, with such unique circumstances as the ones in this case, we believe this situation warrants a sensitive approach to expedite a resolution. The McGinty's hope their case could lead to changes in the law.
I think that we need, as a society, to move to try to protect consumers.
So, Steph, what's the next step here then?
Well, they're going to appeal this decision to the New Jersey Supreme Court. But guys, this is a reminder. None of us read those terms of service. I don't do it. A lot of people don't. But it is a binding contract. And when you click yes to use any number of apps, it means that you are bound by the terms that you agree to.
All right.
So what's crazy is I sat there and said, and I'm pretty sure this was a little over a month ago, that companies will do this. Look, terms and agreements, they're everywhere. They're long. They're CVS receipt long. They're small print. 9 times out of 10, you don't want to read it. You do what everybody else does. Scroll all the way to the bottom and press accept. Not realizing that companies are now seeing this and going, well, I guess that, nobody reads these. So technically we can put everything we want in here. And if they agree to it, they're bound by it. Now, imagine the fact that you are injured by an Uber driver and that Uber says, aha, you're Uber Eats customer. You agreed to our contract. You can't sue us. You can't report this. All of our mediation is done behind closed doors and it's never laid out to the press. It is amazing how corporations have sealed themselves within these agreements in the event that if someone does turn around and hopefully not to anybody, not to wish ill will upon them, but let's just say you do get an offender bender with Uber. Are you an Uber Eats person? I know I'm not. I can't trust. I'm sorry. And I don't trust Uber Eats or Grubhub just because, well, one, I don't trust anybody bringing food to me that is not at a drive-through window. Just saying. But it is very, very scary, the level of legality that they're taking with this. That something such as your loved one, having an allergic reaction, dying, to being hit by an absentee Uber driver, that these corporations are getting more protection than kids in schools at this rate. And that's not being talked about enough. It really is not. But I did want to talk about this, guys, as we kind of get toward the end of our Feel Good segment. There is this moment outside with presidential race, which again, that's going to be wrapping up very soon next month, that it's all hands on deck trying to get people to mobilize, trying to get people out there, get registered to vote, be aware when they're voting, and go from there. That being said, there is now a group out there that is using money, $4 million in donations, to mobilize Black male voters. Vote to Live is the actual PAC that it's called, that's encouraging Black men to get to the polls. Now, I have sat there and said this multiple times on the show, that black men should be voting, as well as everybody else. Voting should be a right for every American citizen to have. However, some black men do follow social media and they do follow certain celebrities and say that I'm not voting because, oh, I don't like the candidates. They don't represent me. I'm not going to vote for a woman. Trump actually didn't do wrong by me. I can keep going down a list of everything I've ever heard because I find myself in these discussions all the time. And again, for black men to vote, I have sat there and said from both sides, but I speak more to the Democratic side because the Democratic side will be more willing to reach out to black voters than Republicans will. Because Republicans believe that they get one black person on their end, then they fill their HR quota for saying we're not racist. But I have said this before, if we're going to reach out to black male voters, you do have to reach out on the things they ask for. Like, for example, they talked about police brutality. We had the John Walker Act. We also had the George Floyd Police Reform Bill. We also had the Voting Rights Act. All three acts would have been great to actually have, but unfortunately, due to Sinema and Joe Manchin, they never made it to the light of day. But those three bills would have benefited black men in a great way. At the same time of making marijuana legal in all 50 states, basically decriminalizing marijuana and removing or expunging those that may have marijuana-related crimes on their rap sheets. Because again, this would affect black men because, again, incarceration, 25% of people in prisons are black men. And those black men, unable to get cash bail or able to get bailed out, stay in the prison population until their court case is heard. But again, this is what I'm talking about, the things that can be done. That if you do want to reach out to black voters, they have to, at the same time, be basically encouraged to. Now, I'm not saying that all black men at this point should have a solemn duty to, vote for my Vice President Harris, although I should say you should, because again, Trump has never done anything for black people as much as he tries to sit there and say that. And I had that argument many a time with people. The only people that ever benefit from Trump being president are corporations and those in higher tax brackets. That's it. Everybody else, you're a pipe dream. But the way to reach out to black male voters is to literally reach them out on the subjects that matter to them. And Kamala Harris is trying to do that. I don't see that with Trump because in Trump's eyes, as long as he's got a black preacher, he's got everything he needs. And that should tell you how he views us, especially for the simple fact of the matter of when him and his father refused to rent to black tenants, when this man took out a 5-page ad, the New York Times, to basically hang the Central Park Five. Now at the time, which they were being tried for raping a white woman, which they did not do. And now they have basically been vindicated. Remember, Trump did all of that. So I find it, and also the HBCUs that went to visit Trump when he was president, where Trump had promised $100 million in federal money to the HBCUs, which they never got because they never went through. The man just wanted a photo op of black people. So how do we get black male voters? Simple. Reach out, outreach, really realizing what they're dealing with, especially in the ways of jobs, opportunities, things of that nature. Because if you can reach them and actually relate to them, then you have their attention versus just saying, hey, it's either me or Dorito. And let's be honest, it's just like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was a very qualified presidential candidate, more than qualified. But because of Trump's good job of smearing and a lot of black men looked at Hillary a certain way, they decided to either vote for Trump or not vote at all. We simply cannot do that again. But the one thing I wanted to get to, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment about voting, and I keep saying this all the time, be careful if you're not getting active. Folks who want to be active will. What if I told you there was a woman currently in Georgia that was a part of the deniers to where she swore up and down she followed a truck of shredded ballots saying that the election was stolen in Georgia and she was following a truck that supposedly had the shredded ballots? What if I told you that woman now has the ability to influence voting laws in the county? Crazy, right? Unfortunately, it's true.
To be labeled a conspiracy theorist, as I'm sure you have been.
Am I? That's news to me.
If you are for free and fair elections in the United States of America with only citizens voting, I want you to make some noise.
Trump supporters like Sally Grubbs are making last-minute changes to election rules in Georgia on things like how ballots are counted and how easy it is to challenge the election results. Before the 2020 election, you weren't necessarily involved at a political organizing level at all.
No.
What changed?
It's because of the ballot shredding that happened at Jim Miller Park.
Ballot shredding?
Mm-hmm.
As Trump's election denialism gripped Georgia in November 2020, Sally got caught up in a conspiracy theory of her own.
November the 20th, Friday morning.
I got a phone call from a friend and said they're shredding things. You know, you need to get over there.
I'm watching all of these ballots being shredded now. Unbelievable.
They jumped in their cars and chased the truck. Sally said it was like a scene from Thelma and Louise. What did you see? You saw?
I saw big containers, big bins of things that said official absentee ballot, wheeled over to a shredding truck, sucked up into the truck and shredded.
The story went viral, but county and state election officials, even the shredding company itself, said that no ballots were shredded. Only things like envelopes and mailing labels were destroyed. So you believe something was going on there?
There was definitely something going on.
But Sally's belief that she saw something that day helped inspire her to get involved in politics.
If we can get lottery tickets right, we should be able to process ballots.
Sally was directly involved in changing a rule to give local election officials the power to delay certification of the result.
She is a highly motivated individual who has taken advantage of the laws as written. If you're relentless, you can get to places and get things done.
Gabriel Sterling is one of the top election officials in Georgia.
If Trump wins the state, everything will be roses. If he loses the state by a small amount, which is a possibility too, then this is just laying the foundation for the conspiracy theories of how the election got stolen this time. Most of the stuff they do is just adding extra stress to our county workers more than anything. And a lot of it is just feeding into a very tilled field of conspiracy that people are ready and willing to hear and take in.
These are things to make our elections more secure. And it really makes you stop and question people when they're like, no, you can't count the ballots.
One of the last minute changes here involves an additional count of ballots by hand.
And I want to be clear, I have a problem with hand counting ballots. Yeah. There's different times to do that. There's different reasons to do that. And the process we normally go through is called an audit.
Joseph Kirk is the election administrator in the county next to Sally's.
But we do it after the election in a controlled environment where it's easier to observe, easier to monitor the process, and my folks have a chance to rest first because it's a long day to getting all that done. We're just giving folks a chance to make a mistake. We're just having very, very tired, in many cases, senior citizens try to hand count stuff in front of people, which can be nerve-wracking.
So your concern is that a lot of people walking in, voting on these machines are saying, I don't even know if I should be doing this. I don't know if this is even going to count.
Well, that or just they don't know the safeguards we have in place to make sure their vote is tabulated properly, is included in the results, nothing's swapped out, nothing's stuffed in, nothing untoward's happened.
So basically, what I'm trying to get at, guys, is that woman, again, who swore up and down she saw votes being shredded, followed said truck, literally sat there from high heaven and still believes she's right, is now in an area to where she can influence the election. And I keep saying this, guys, and I say this all the time, and yet I am finding myself not being wrong about anything. That, again, if you're going to be active, because if you're not active, there are folks out there that will, and they will do whatever they need to do in order to basically move the goalpost. At the same time, Trump will welcome it because it works in his favor. So again, be active, vote, register to vote, go to vote.org, not that hard. But as you can see, my baby girl is up, or somewhat up. Hi, Zuri. But we're going to go ahead and get to our Feel Good 7, guys, because usually how the Frack We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you faith in humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is hump day, tomorrow is free Friday, which is Thursday. We leave you guys out some good vibrations, and hopefully this next story will do just that, about a man who had something tragic happen to him, but did not stop him in uplifting and pushing others.
I'm America Strong, the track coach overcoming painful obstacles, determined to inspire.
A competitive runner since the age of 6, for Shake Allen, the track is like home. But today, he gets around in a wheelchair after a tragic accident that took the lives of his sister and cousin and left him paralyzed from the chest down.
You better win this!
Thanks to support from family and friends, he's now back out on the track.
Track actually saved my life.
This time as Coach Shake, helping young runners with the Chester Cheetahs Track Club outside Philadelphia.
I felt being upset that I was in a wheelchair would have been selfish because they was no longer here. At least I still had a chance to do something.
Coach Shake creating a special connection with these 5 to 18-year-olds.
Go! I'm in a wheelchair and I can't physically show the kids, but I have a bond with them.
Grateful he still has use of his arms and hands, enabling him to help runners with proper positioning. By example, he's also teaching them important lessons about life.
I always tell them is a negative and a positive way you could take things. Like me, I told them I could have been negative about my accident, but I wasn't. Come on, all the way through, cross that line.
Coach Shake is now on a mission, inspiring these young runners to reach their full potential, no matter the challenge.
You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain. So you just got to keep on going. Just be thankful for what's there in front of you and make it work. You do not give up.
Do not give up.
Do not give up is right. Definitely want to shout that man because, again, taking something that is tragic that happened to him and actually making it a positive light is always a great thing to see, and we always want to salute that. But as we wrap things up, guys, we do want to thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I cannot stop talking about BlurStation.com. I keep saying, guys, this is the table, the vehicle that we always wanted to where our content that we own can be viewed and where dollars can go back into our pockets. Do not get me wrong, Tubi is great, but Tubi is also owned by a guy who also owns Fox and basically made $100 million off our content and our viewership. We aim to take that money back and put it back into our own pockets. So if you go to BlurStation.com, you'll see that we have everything. Movies, television shows, game shows, even shows like Issue 1, which, again, you definitely should take a look at. If you definitely want to go there, guys, please check out BlurStation.com. Hit the Join Now button. Select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership there, and you can select my name, Black Spartan, as the partner. I would certainly appreciate that. At the same time, guys, it's $10.99 a month to view Blur Station. $10.99 a month. After 36 months, you have the opportunity to own a piece of Blur Station. And honestly, owning a piece of a media station that's just now getting off the ground, that's going to be just as big as Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime are bigger, trust me, you're going to miss it if you don't get on the ground floor. But definitely check out BlurStation.com. Also, check out AlwaysPressRecord.com is where you can find shows like mine and many others out there, especially on APR TV and on the app, which can be on smart devices and Roku TVs, where you can see me for your television. I would certainly appreciate that, but definitely another table to where, again, our content owned by us can be seen by everyone. And also, guys, vote.org. I cannot stress this enough. As you can see right there, November 5th is not that far away now. Again, if you don't know about your voting situation, this site can help you. You can check your registration. You can register to vote. It takes less than 2 minutes. You can figure out if you can vote by mail. You can figure out where you're going to having to go. If you're going to do early voting, this one site can help you in finding out everything you need to know about voting day, so you have no excuse, guys. And like I said before, you definitely want to be at the ready because they will be at the ready. And unless we all act, or unless you're just curious enough to see the second coming of a convicted felon become president, that's upon you. But again, we all have a duty come November 5th. So again, check out vote.org. Be at the ready, get other people at the ready, because again, they will be, so you need to be. And I mean by they, the other side. As for me, guys, Black Spartan, Black_Spartan 615 is where you can find me on the social, guys. I usually talk about everything. I like talking with people. Just don't be weird. I don't want to have to block people, and I don't want to have to repeat myself. So again, just don't be weird. At the same time, guys, the link at the bottom, I'll make that a little bit bigger for you guys see. If you copy and paste that link in your browser, or take the link tree that's the Facebook and YouTube groups for all of my podcasts. So definitely like, share, follow, subscribe. costs nothing but means everything, because we cannot simply do this without you. At the same time, guys, the podcast can be found wherever you get your podcast from. So definitely run those numbers up, let people know about it, because again, I do feel very passionate about delivering news, but also making it logical at the same time, giving you the news and nothing else. Outside of that, guys, again, be at the ready to vote. We're not that far away. At the same time, I really want my children not to basically be under that man's shadow, because somebody's going to look at our history books one day and they're going to look at this period in time and go, how the hell did they not know they were in a cult? But I digress. The last thing I'll say about how the Frack We Got Here, guys, is all about staying informed. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the facts and allowing you to make up your own mind. At the same time, guys, we try to be progressive. When we're progressive, we try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing, hopefully, our first Black woman, as we can finally say, Madam President. We hope. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. And yeah, we'll get through this, as Zuri's trying to tell me it's time to go. Peace.